Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody, depending on where you are. I think I covered, all of the possibilities. This is Bernard Taliaferro. I just wanted to pop in real quick because it's right on the hour now. Uh, the number of attendees now is kind of growing rather rapidly. So if you guys don't mind, I want to wait about 2 more minutes to let more people join in, and then we'll get started. So hang tight for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
You muted it again, Bernard.
Again, greetings, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and get started now. We've got quite a list of attendees participating in this webinar. Really excited about that. I guess in this trying time that we're all going through globally, um, it's the ideal time to at least impart information to everyone. And before I get started, I want to say I hope, uh, wish, and pray that everyone is faring well in this trying time. You know, you and your families, and your loved ones. I hope you're all doing well. So welcome to our webinar. I want to introduce you to a new integrated enclosure solution. We partnered with a company named Ventev. They specialize in designing and building enclosure solutions, and we were looking for an enclosure solution or enclosure solutions for harsh environments, intrinsically safe solutions, and the like. So we partnered with Ventev in order to accomplish this. So we're going to introduce you to those solutions. For those of you that didn't hear me earlier, my name is Bernard Taliaferro. I'm the Director of Channels with Rajant. So I want to thank all of you again for taking some time out of your busy schedules for this webinar. I'm certain that the information that we're going to share, you'll find it to be interesting and valuable. First, before I get started, I want to cover some housekeeping, and then we'll get right into the webinar. So this webinar is being recorded, and it will be archived on our partner portal once it's been edited and cleaned up, so that you'll be able to review it at a later date. I also want to share that all of your lines are muted. Only the presenters can be heard on this presentation. So uh, one thing that's very important to us is your questions. We want to make sure that we address your questions about what we're going to share. So in the dashboard, you'll notice some grayed out uh, sections that have words written in white, and there's an arrow pointing to them. Down near the bottom, you'll see that there is one where it says questions. If you click on that triangle or that arrow that points at the word, that box will explode, and then you can type your questions in there. And throughout the presentation, we will uh, also be answering those questions. And then at the end of the webinar, I'll walk through the questions, and we'll have our subject matter expert um, provide answers or make sure that the answers that we're giving are accurate. So I think that's it for the housekeeping. And I want to move into introducing you to my colleague, Al Rivero, who is our subject matter expert for oil and gas and petrochemical and therefore intrinsically safe environments. There seems to be a bit of a whistling. I think the only lines that are unmuted are myself and Al right now. So hopefully that will go away. And I apologize for any distraction or inconvenience that's causing. So I want to introduce you guys to my colleague Al Rivero. So Al's the director of oil and gas at Rajant. He's responsible for working with and engaging with clients who seek to implement secure, reliable IoT and mobility strategies for their oil and gas operations. Al's got over 30 years of experience in various roles, ranging from staff engineer and project manager to operations management and technology management within Chevron. He also has extensive IT, OT integration project experience, having worked with SAP, JDE, ESRI in a variety of automated and SCADA DCS solutions for upstream, midstream, refining, and petrochemical. So at the request of several end users, Al really set up to solve some problems. And as a result of those problems that he was working on solving, he aligned with Ventev and came up with this collaboration that allows us to now bring these two enclosure solutions to you. These solutions will serve the needs of the oil and gas, underground mining, utility, and petrochemical markets very, very nicely. So without further ado, I want to bring Al in, and we'll start to talk a bit about this solution that we're sharing with you.
Hey, good morning, Bernard.
Good morning, man. Thanks a lot, Al. I appreciate you being here and participating in this. And actually, before I have you jump in, I want to formally introduce the strategic partner or the strategic partnership. So Ventev, as I mentioned, is a designer and manufacturer of enclosure solutions. If you're going to sports venues, stadiums, and arenas, there's enclosures throughout those venues where the Wi-Fi equipment is deployed. A lot of those solutions are designed by Ventev. And then, of course, you understand who Rajant is. So I just wanted to touch on that really, really quickly. And now I want to move into the solution that we're talking about. The first one is what we call the ES1-IS. So if you could, Al, tell us a little bit about what this ES1-IS is.
So one of the issues we were having is we had a lot of clients have questions about our ability to go into hazardous equipment. So we leveraged the infrastructure we have with our existing breadcrumbs, which is and we looked at a way to make it intrinsically safe. So one of the goals was to get a C1D1 ATEX Zone 0, ATEX Zone 1 box that was suitable for petrochemical environments and for some of our offshore applications. We looked at a couple different vendors, panel shops to work with, and at the end of the day, Ventev was the shortlisted manufacturer that could work with us. They have a nice lab, they have a nice facility, and they can work with us manufacturing these units on an order basis. What basically this is a fully integrated device that extends the Rajant breadcrumb infrastructure into a petrochemical plant. The unit is designed so that it can go into any ATEX Zone 0, ATEX Zone 1 environment, with the exception of coal mines and underground. Any other environment in mining is suitable except for coal mining. Coal mining has some unique requirements. Can you go to the next slide, please?
Certainly.
So when we look at what we're trying to accomplish here is we're trying to give our customers an extension of the breadcrumb infrastructure into their hazardous environments. By doing so, we can enable them to do rounds, communicate with their staff, and use some of our other partner offerings while they're inside the plant environment. Historically, Rajant has had to stay out of the plant environment, Bernard.
Okay. So give me a little bit more detail about how this solution helps the customer solve those problems. You know, I understand that our solution wasn't suited for those environments in the past. Touch on a little bit more about, I guess, the productivity or increased productivity that this will enable.
But by enabling mesh into a chemical plant, an LNG terminal, offshore, onshore platform, it actually enables a lot of other devices that historically were out of reach for the operator. For example, a lot of operators are trying to do more real-time personnel tracking. They're trying to do real-time rounds, or the ability of using explosion-proof tablets in a plant environment historically has been relegated to the guy goes out, does his rounds, comes back in, and has to sync up the tablet. With this environment, they can actually do the rounds. The data can be getting updated in real time. The other thing it does is enables the use of virtual reality in the plant. So if you're trying to do maintenance, if you're trying to order parts for a piece of equipment, you can actually look at the libraries that you have in the plant. Normally that would be in the office. Now you can bring those out to the plant with you, and you can do exploded views of a pump or a compressor, look at the components that it has, and actually order those from the plant floor itself without having to go back for a mechanic or a millwright or someone that's actually working in the field. It's really powerful to actually be able to look at the equipment, be able to diagnose kind of what's going on with it, and actually put a bill of material together to the warehouse to have the equipment staged so that when they get ready, they can have it pulled automatically. So there's a lot of enablers that this solution does when you put it on the plant floor itself.
Okay, all right, thanks, Al. I'm noticing this alphabet soup that we've got here on the slide to the lower left. Can you walk us through what this is telling us and simplify it a bit?
The alphabet soup is really important, Bernard. The alphabet soup identifies all the requirements that the unit meets globally. So if you're in the U.S., the U.S. and Canada, Mexico, and some of the Latin American countries follow the NEC standards or the NFPA, National Fire Protection Association standards. And within that, they have National Electric Codes, and that's 70 NEC. Under 70 NEC, there's an Article 500, which determines area classifications for the different devices. This device is a C1D1. How does that correlate in that alphabet soup? Is that a C1D1 is basically a BCD group where hydrocarbon gases are present all the time, is a zone 0, where hydrocarbon gases are present part of the time, it's the zone 1. So if you look at the alphabet soup in the bottom, a system integrator or a partner can actually look and see themselves where this can be placed. It can actually be placed all the way into a C1D2 environment, which is an ATEX Zone 2 environment for use in that area. The primary focus for this device is not ATEX 2. We have another solution for ATEX 2, but it's for that really hydrocarbon present most of the time or all of the time, close to a flange, drilling operations, a regas facility at an LNG terminal, a compression facility at an LNG terminal. where you have the possibility of having hydrocarbon vapors all the time. So that's kind of what that alphabet soup at the bottom. We had to put the table in there so that our SIs and our global partners could see, because if you're in Australia or South Africa, C1D1 doesn't mean a whole lot, but IEC 60079 means a lot, or ATEX Zone 0 means a lot. So they can correlate to that. That's why that alphabet chart is down at the bottom.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Al. So you mentioned that we have another product. So let's kind of jump over to that one and talk about that one for a little while. So we've got this KM3-ES. Share a little bit with us about what that is.
This is really kind of a rapid deploy kit that's meant to go in harsh weather environments, typically outdoor, top of a pole. The need for this arose from a couple of integrators talking about having a quick turn item. They can make cabinets, but by the time they got done integrating the cabinet, they all looked different. They were made for project-specific things. So we took the requirements that the partners had and looked at a way to come up with one unit that they could all use that was kind of a standard base unit that shipped out with everything. So this unit actually ships out with antennas, cables, PoE, breadcrumb, and 12 meters of cable. So the Cat5 or Cat7 cable, which is oil resistant, UV resistant, it has the cable associated with it. It has the glands for the penetration into the box. It also has a standard SJO 14 gauge cable for the power side. On the power side, it comes in AC or DC, all the way up to 240 volts AC. And on the DC side, it's 8 to 24 volts, 8 to 48 volts, I think. Sorry about that. But basically, it's a breadcrumb in a box. It's one SKU. It's ordered as a unit. The uses for this are where you want to do CCTV monitoring, where you need a pole top unit to monitor, to extend the mesh, or you want to put Wi-Fi in a parking lot, or you want to do some surveillance. So these units are seeing a lot of traction, and we have right now approximately 200 or so out in the process for clients. And they're going to be using everything from turnstiles, temporary turnstiles for construction projects, dock monitoring, extending Wi-Fi to employees out in laydown yards, and a variety of things. So that was kind of the idea.
Okay, awesome. Let's dig a little bit deeper into this. And actually, before we get into this slide, I want to quickly remind everybody about the questions area. Again, if you've got any questions, please type them into the text field so that we can start providing answers to those and then review them at the end of the webinar. So thanks again for that, everybody. So again, let's touch on, why should customers be interested in this KM3-ES? And I know you've touched a little bit on it while we were on the previous slide, but let's kind of elaborate a bit.
Yeah, that's no problem. The KM3-ES is really architected to be kind of a plug and play unit. We've actually added DIN row space within the box. So if the client wants to put a serial converter or another hub for extending additional IP connections to a CCTV enabled camera or something like that. So we've added those components as part of the box. We looked at designing what a typical pole layout would be in a field or in a parking lot, and tried to come up with cable lengths that would get the integrator or the installer to that point. The idea here is a unit that's IEC 67 compliant that can go out in the field in high weather, high wind conditions, and be out there for the long haul. We're seeing a variety of things being used with this. So two of our engineering clients that have a very large project, they need these large temporary facilities that they build out for 4 or 5 years while the project's going on. So they're using this architecture for that. And they're using this architecture for employee access through turnstiles, for monitoring parking lots and surveillance of employees in the site. One of them is actually using it to take snapshot pictures. So they're running live video every day, but at 8 a.m. at a specific time, they take a snapshot from each camera so that the people can see the progression of the plant. There's a lot of uses within this device, but it really, what we tried to do is give our system integrators and our ecosystem partners a fully integrated one SKU device, which is kind of what they've been asking for, and it's using our 2, 4, and 5 gigahertz mesh. We use the KM3 because we can be a little more flexible on the frequency design and channel selection when we're doing that.
Okay, excellent. Thanks a lot, Al. And so I noticed, so we're using the KM3, so this is DIN rail mountable. So there's a DIN rail in the enclosure. I imagine there's probably the ability, it's not a huge enclosure, but there's probably the ability to maybe have some other components in there on the DIN rail as well. Is that the case?
Yeah, there's a 1.5 centimeter spare gap in the DIN rail for additional. If you can actually get up to 2.5 centimeters by using a different strapping configuration. Okay. And the reason for the strapping configuration on the DIN rail for the devices is to get it to 180 kilometer wind rating. Without that, on top of a pole, you can get some vibration that would loosen the devicing. But if you're going to mount it to the side of a wall or do different things with it, you can actually use a different strapping configuration and get more space within the DIN rail. The idea there is we don't know what the clients are going to do with it, but we tried to give enough space for at least two 1.25 centimeter devices width on the DIN rail. That was the goal. And so I think we've gotten there so that you can put two DIN rail mountable devices that will fit in there relatively easy. The issue is going to be, it is a tight box. If you put a 4-port switch in there for, let's say, 3 PoE cameras, it's going to get a little tight with cabling and stuff, but it gives you that flexibility.
Okay, thanks, Al. Now, real quickly, before we move away from the enclosures, if you could just kind of summarize the differences between the ES1-IS and the KM3-ES, mainly where one is used versus the other. That
okay.
might be, yeah. Could you touch on that real quick?
Absolutely. The IS is specifically designed for a location that has a volatile gas or an explosive environment present 50 to 100% of the time. So that would go into the ATEX Zone 0, ATEX Zone 1. It's a lot more hazardous environment. That's why that box is a little beefier, little heavier, a little denser. It is basically designed to hold an explosion either inside or externally without failure. The through bushings of that on that antenna mount are actually rated for ATEX Zone 0, ATEX Zone 1 environment, as well as the entire enclosure. So that is fundamentally the core difference. The ES is more for a harsh environment along the Gulf, near a marina, outside in an area where you have high winds, high rain, sleet, that kind of stuff. and you need to extend the network as well. So that's kind of where the fundamental difference is. One is non-explosion proof. The other one is explosion proof.
I found this on the web.
Okay, that's awesome, Al. Now, real quickly, I want to take it a step further. When should someone look at the KM3-ES versus our standard ES1? Our standard ES1 2450. When should someone look at this KM3-ES enclosure solution versus the ES1-IS? Versus the ES1's 2450R?
There's a bunch of differences there, Bernard. I mean, the ES1 is a very nice, tightly integrated pull top unit, and it's definitely a good home run for an installer. What we tried to do is put together a kit, and we're looking at doing the same thing go forward with other products as well. But what we tried to do with the KM3-ES is put together a kit that allowed our partners to have everything in one box, PoE, other devices, and have some of the scalability that the KM3 gives you. The ES1 is definitely a phenomenal product, and it can do a lot of the things that the KM3-ES can, but it still requires the PoE and those other components to work with it. Both are good products, and that's a great question, Bernard.
No, thanks a lot. So we're going to move forward now to what I would say is an accessory or an accessory device that would be used in conjunction with these enclosures. So this is the USB auxiliary I/O. Tell us a little bit about that, Al.
That's a good way of putting it. This is an accessory. This was born out of a couple of our clients asking for a way to shut down or initiate action in the field from a centralized control center. The way this device works, it has the ability for 4 inputs and 4 outputs. Input 1 corresponds to output 1 and vice versa. It is actually powered through the USB port of the KM3 and the ES1. The idea for this device is architected as a one-to-many device, where, for example, you have a centralized control room and you need to initiate a shutdown of a bunch of equipment in the field or everything that's attached to a reagent breadcrumb. This will do that for you. If you need to implement an evacuation alarm or a siren, you can implement that using this. Go to the next slide so we can talk about the architecture, because it's a little easier to look at a drawing than it is to look at words on a picture, if you don't mind. So the way this is architected, it is set up to be a one-to-many device where you have a centralized control room somewhere or a command center somewhere in the fleet. Within that control center, you have output devices that need to go out through the mesh and have some action implemented on the other side. The output from it can be a push button, it can be a command from a SCADA system locally, but it has to be some kind of what they call hardwire device. In some of the fields, in some of the areas where we work, the way the mesh works, they're comfortable using this in lieu of a hardwire device, because we've done quite a bit of testing with it. We know how the technology works. We've extended the technology out through the field. We've done quite a bit of throughput testing on it. We've done cycle testing on each of the components. We turned off cycle testing about a month ago. We'd reached roughly 260,000 cycles at half a second scan cycle without a failure. So we were fairly comfortable that it worked. But really, fundamentally, it's a one-to-many. It uses UDP multicast to get the broadcast message across. It has one input like you see on the KM3 on the left, and then that corresponds if it sees a contact closure or change of state on input 1, it'll actually change the state of output 1 on all the units in the field. That way you can trigger any kind of action from those devices as you go forward. We're seeing it used to ESD or shut down a set of pumps. We're seeing it to turn on emergency sirens or evacuation sirens. One of the customers is actually turning on work lights at night with it, which was not the intent, but definitely works since they have it. And I'm not going to tell a client, no, you can't turn on lights with it. So once they have it, they find all sorts of creative uses for it.
All right, thank you much, Al. So I'm going to kind of summarize the products that we've touched on, and then we do have a nice list of questions to address as well. So I'm going to go through the questions and seek the answers from Al. But we touched on the ES1-IS, again designed for our C1D1 and ATEX 1, as well as ATEX 0. Al shared with me the last time we talked. And then we talked about the KM3-ES, which is our NEMA 4X integrated enclosure that actually contains the KM3. And then we talked a bit about this USB auxiliary input-output device. I've heard Al kind of describe this as the easy button when he shared some of the examples about how this was utilized. So I want to walk through the questions that we've got right now, Al, and have you provide the answers that are needed for these. And again, I will also type the answers in next to the questions so that we can provide all of this information back to the attendees that are on the webinar. So the first question that we had here is, what additional product would be needed with the ES1-IS versus the KM3-ES?
They're both integrated products. They have different uses. Like for example, you would not take ES1-IS and put it on top of a pole in a parking lot. There's really no need for an explosive environment. The idea is if you take the NEC code section 500 for C1D1, you're putting the IS in an environment that is within 25 feet of an active hydrocarbon plant. So you're talking a metering skid, fractionator tower, something like that. The ES cannot go in any of those environments. The ES can only go in environments where there is no explosive vapor. It is an IEC rated box. It is not meant or intended to be in a gaseous environment. The duty is different.
Thanks a lot, Al. I've got another question here. Is the issue for underground coal the input voltage? And then are we pursuing MSHA certification? Can you touch on that, Al?
It is too. So underground coal has some unique requirements with material of construction and the tools and equipment for our creation if coal dust is present. So we are looking, but it's not going to be this enclosure for underground coal mines. This enclosure just cannot meet the specifications for underground coal mines as it sits today. The material, this enclosure is a copper-free aluminum, which does not meet or would never meet the specifications without some serious modifications to ensure that opening the box does not create an arc. That's fundamentally the issue. So we are looking at alternatives, especially for the Australian market where there is a need in underground coal mine. We're trying to figure out what the right direction is for that market. We don't know exactly the direction we're going to take. I've talked to a couple of manufacturers that have equipment in that space, and it's not a short-term fix to get into underground coal mines. But we definitely want to extend our mesh into that environment.
I recall you saying that some of the solutions were, I guess, cost prohibitive.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at prices. I mean, just an enclosure for that environment, you're sitting at around close to $12,000.
That's just the enclosure. Okay.
That's just the enclosure.
Wow. Okay. So we talked about high weather conditions. How do these rate in low weather conditions? That's one of the questions that we have here.
Yeah, I would say in that if you're not looking at high weather harsh environments, we have other products that can meet that as well. The ES1 or the KM3-ES was really to target the Gulf of Mexico where you have like really crazy winds and that kind of stuff during a hurricane. That's why there's some strapping on if you look at the end stop and the straps that are in there, that's kind of the reason for that particular solution. The RES1 is perfect for, I would say, 90% of the applications that we do that are outdoors. I have a ton of ES1s installed in fracking fleets and pump off controls and out in the field outdoors, and that is ideal for that. I don't know that you would take a KM3-ES and put it out there.
Thanks a lot, Al. So another question that is asked. So right now, the KM3-ES is 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. The question is, will there be a 2.4 and 900 megahertz version available?
That is not the first time that question's been asked. The issue is the 900 megahertz antenna. The 900 megahertz antenna is about 2.5 meters on a SISO antenna. It could be done. I would need to, whoever wrote that question, I would like to have some further discussions with them on just kind of what they would envision from that standpoint. That's a lot more complicated answer than on a WebEx. That's probably a 30-minute discussion all to itself.
Okay, I'll make sure that you have the information and establish contact for you and I.
Yeah, and the issue there really is the antenna configuration and the mounting.
Okay. Let me move on to the next one. So the question here is, so the KM3 does not have a heater. What is the operational temperature rating in the Ventev box?
I'll have to get you the models for that. I don't have them right in front of me, but it's I think it's down to minus 30 roughly. The box itself is minus 60. But let me get you the models and I'll get that to you. So if you can, whoever asked that question, we can address it to everybody.
Excellent.
I'd have to look at the models, to be honest with you.
All right. Um, what is the maximum power output on the USB port?
It's,
not, oh, okay.
yeah, so we've done some testing on that. It's USB 2 standard on all of our breadcrumbs. We're for the auxiliary relay, we're only using microamps. I can go back and look. The KM3 has different USB 2 power output max than the ES1. I do know that, but I can get that information for you guys.
And then there's a follow-on question. Can you cycle the power of the USB port to reset the USB device?
Yeah, it's so we've actually gone through quite a bit of testing, and we actually did that. I think we tested it once a second, cycling the power on the USB port just to make sure that it recognized it, and it does reset the device, not the radio, but the relay.
Okay, excellent. Is the KM3-ES C1D2 certified as well?
No, the KM3-ES is NEMA 4X. Not at all intended, never intended, should not be used in a hazardous environment at all, period.
Okay, all right. Another question was, can other switches and Wi-Fi devices be mounted into these enclosures? So
I would say no on Wi-Fi devices, as they would interfere. Need to understand more what they're asking about with regards to other switches. So, like if you take a Moxa or some of those DIN rail mountable 4-port switches, if that's what you're referring to, yes. You can mount different devices. You need to ensure how that device will work within the architecture.
Okay. Coming to the end of the questions, I've got maybe 3 more to go through. How can I manage in a centralized way many ES1s and KM3s? Well, first off, there's the BC Commander and BC Enterprise, which would be used with any of the Rajant breadcrumbs. Would you add anything to that, Al?
No, I think that's the way to do it. I mean, BC Commander is your friend when it comes to managing these devices. Most of the clients I work with tend to build a single load for the devices to run on their mesh. And then as you go through and advance the migration, that's how you do everything. Firmware updates, configuration changes, all that is done through BC Commander. BC Enterprise is more of a monitoring historical performance type tool. And you can do that. You can do that fairly straightforward. I think in this particular case, Bernard, we probably need to send some configuration information or some information to the individual just so he understands the architecture a little bit better.
No, absolutely. So this next question has to do with how the solution is shipped. Is the ES1-IS shipped with the antennas attached, or are they removable? How does let me go through the rest of it. There's a bit more to it.
Okay.
How does the removal or reattachment of the antennas affect the hazardous class of classification. Also, what type of enclosure entry port is provided for the power cable? That's a great question, as I don't think we touched on the couplings and all of those things.
So the ES1-IS has a 3/4 inch MPT through bushing. The antennas and the couplers to prevent damage are shipped separately. They need to be installed by certified electrician that understands classification of equipment, which means no pipe dope, no thread lubricants, metal to metal, minimum of 5 threads insertion on the through bushing. The reason for shipping them disassembled, so at the plant they're actually assembled and tested to ensure everything works. But if we ship them with the through bushings and the antennas installed, because of the size of the ES1-IS, I guarantee that by the time anyone got them, they would be broken. So we took a conscious decision after testing to disassemble the antennas and the through bushings, because a lot of the certification relies on the through bushing. So we took them apart, wrapped them, put them inside the box, put the antennas, and everything comes inside the box. When you get the box, you open it up and you reassemble it by a licensed or certified electrician at your location. It's no different than installing a 3/4 inch MPT bushing from a rigid conduit into an enclosure. But right now there's a single rigid conduit on between the 2-4 side. And I apologize, that's a good question for powering the unit.
Excellent, thank you, Al. So we're just introducing this product. Have you had any conversations with any prospective water or wastewater facilities with regarding this solution?
I have not personally. One of our partners in Austin has had discussions with a couple water wastewater facilities around the KM3-ES, and they really liked the thought of the KM3-ES for that application. He is actually quoting those to a water wastewater project as we speak.
Okay. And then that's really it for the questions, and I think we're probably coming up on time. That's it for the questions that we've got. Again, I want to thank first off Al for being the subject matter expert and taking the time to share this information or elaborate on this information for everyone. I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules. All of our authorized distributors have pricing information for the ES1-IS, for the KM3-ES, and we'll have information on the kit parts USB auxiliary unit. So continue to go to your authorized distributor of choice for these solutions. And if there are any questions about the solutions, Al Rivero from Rajant is a point of contact to provide any guidance, any additional detail needed. And then our main point of contact at Ventev, the manufacturer or the organization that assembled the solution for us, is Isaac Juarez. Again, thank you all for your time. Again, I pray that you're all faring well through this trying time that our nation, our country, and our world is going through. And Rajant's here to assist you guys in any way that we can. Once again, thank you and have a great day, great evening, great night.